The crystalline spires of the Galactic Council's embassy district stretched toward the violet sky of Centauri Prime, each tower representing a different species in the Grand Alliance. Ambassador Nyla of the Korvathi Collective stood before the viewing window of her diplomatic suite, her iridescent scales catching the light of 3 distant suns. "Mother, this is humiliating," her daughter Sira said, adjusting the traditional courtship sash around her slender frame. "I don't need you to accompany me on a date with the Drexian envoy's son." Nyla turned, her vertical pupils narrowing with maternal concern. "The Drexians are an old and powerful family, daughter. This union could strengthen our position in the council. I simply wish to observe the compatibility." In truth, Nyla had orchestrated this arrangement carefully. The Korvathi were a proud species, their diplomatic prowess unmatched across the known galaxy. For 3,000 years, they had brokered peace, mediated conflicts, and maintained order among the stars. But lately, the humans, those upstart mammals from the outer spiral arm, had begun to challenge their supremacy. Humans. The very thought made Nyla's scales ripple with distaste. They had joined the Galactic Council only 70 years ago, yet they acted as if they belonged at the table of ancient civilizations. Emotional, impulsive, dangerously unpredictable. The restaurant Nyla had selected was the finest on Centauri Prime, a floating establishment where gravity manipulation allowed diners to experience their meal while suspended among the clouds. She and Sarah materialized in the transport beam, immediately greeted by the Korvathi host. "Ambassador, we are honored," the host began, but his words died as his gaze shifted past them. Nyla followed his stare and felt her blood freeze in her veins. Seated at the private table she had reserved was not the Drexian envoy's son. Instead, a human male sat there, reviewing the menu with casual interest. He was young by human standards, perhaps 30 of their short years, with dark hair and the peculiar binocular vision that made humans such effective hunters on their Deathworld home planet. "There must be some mistake," Nyla hissed to the host. I apologize, Ambassador, but the reservation was changed this morning. By your office." Sarah's communication device chimed. She glanced at it, then her scales flushed with embarrassment. "Mother, I should have told you. Krios and I decided we weren't compatible. I asked my assistant to arrange a different meeting. This is Brian Chen, the new human cultural attaché." Brian stood as they approached, executing a respectful bow that incorporated both human and Korvathi greeting protocols. "Ambassador Nyla, it's an honor. Sarah has told me much about your legendary diplomatic career." Nyla's mind raced through 1,000 scenarios, each more catastrophic than the last. Her daughter, interested in a human. It was unthinkable. Humans lived barely a century. They had no understanding of the subtle arts of galactic politics. They were— "Please, sit," Brian said, gesturing to the seats that adjusted automatically to Korvathi physiology. "I took the liberty of ordering the Andorian cloud wine you're known to favor, Ambassador." Despite herself, Nyla sat. Sira settled beside her, looking nervously between her mother and her date. "Mr. Chen," Nyla began, her voice carrying the formal diplomatic tone she used to crush opposition in council chambers. "I'm certain you're aware that cultural differences between our species are substantial." "Indeed," Brian replied, his brown eyes meeting hers without flinching. "Which is precisely why I found Sarah so fascinating when we met at the trade conference last month. She helped me understand the Korvathi perspective on the Pleiadian mining dispute. Her insight was remarkable." Nyla blinked. The Pleiadian dispute was a nightmare of conflicting territorial claims and ancient treaties. It had taken her team months to craft a workable solution. "Sarah assisted you with that?" "She did more than assist," Brian said, smiling at Sarah, who looked down modestly. "She showed me how the Korvathi approach long-term thinking. You see, we humans tend to focus on immediate solutions, but Sarah explained how you consider the implications across generations, across centuries. It changed how I approached the entire negotiation." The server arrived with their meals, and the conversation continued. Nyla found herself observing not with the critical eye of a disapproving mother, but with the analytical mind of a diplomat who had spent centuries reading people. Brian wasn't trying to impress with false knowledge or borrowed wisdom. Instead, he asked questions, genuine, thoughtful questions about Korvathi history, about Sarah's interests in xenobiology, about the philosophical foundations of their diplomatic methods, and when he spoke of his own species, he did so with surprising humility. "We humans know we're the newcomers," he said during a discussion of council politics. "We've only been spacefaring for 2 centuries and only part of the council for 70 years. We make mistakes, we're emotional, sometimes to our detriment, but," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "we also bring a perspective that comes from our unique history. We've survived extinction events, global wars, ecological collapse. We've learned that sometimes the old ways need to be challenged, not out of disrespect, but out of necessity." Nyla felt something shift in her chest. This human understood more than she'd given him credit for. "Ambassador," Brian said, turning to address her directly, "I know this situation must be uncomfortable for you. Sarah is your daughter, and you want what's best for her. If I may be bold, I don't expect you to approve of me based on one dinner. But I would ask for the opportunity to earn your respect over time. And if I refuse?" Nyla asked. Brian's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes hardened a glimpse of the steel that had allowed humanity to claw its way up from a single planet to a spacefaring civilization. "Then I would respect your wishes as Sarah's mother, while privately disagreeing with your assessment. But I would hope that a diplomat of your legendary skill would make decisions based on evidence rather than prejudice." The audacity of it should have offended her. Instead, Nyla found herself laughing, a sound that surprised even herself. "You have courage, Mr. Chen. Foolish courage, perhaps, but courage nonetheless." Sira's scales brightened with hope. "Mother?" Nyla looked at her daughter, seeing not the child who needed protection but the brilliant young woman who had chosen this human for reasons that were becoming increasingly clear. Brian Chen was right. Humans brought something new to the galaxy. Not just their technology or their military prowess, but their willingness to challenge, to question, to grow. Perhaps, Nyla thought, that was exactly what the Korvathi needed. Not another arranged marriage to maintain old power structures, but a genuine connection that could bridge the gap between ancient wisdom and youthful vigor. "I propose a compromise," Nyla said. "Mr. Chen, you will join Sarah and me for dinner every week for the next standard month. During that time, I will evaluate whether you are worthy of my daughter's attention." Brian smiled. "I accept your terms, Ambassador." As the evening continued and the conversation flowed more naturally, Nyla realized that the unbelievable thing she was doing wasn't accepting a human as a potential partner for her daughter. It was something far more profound. She was allowing herself to see humans not as upstarts or threats, but as equals, as partners in shaping the galaxy's future. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was the greatest diplomatic achievement of her long career.